Frank, Chris was again in foul trouble against LSU. Just how frustrating is it that he's a fourth-year guy now and he still kind of gets in those stretches where it's the same problems as when he was a freshman?
Past frustrating. I was frustrated his sophomore year. It is what it is. It's I don't have an answer for you.
Mike.
Frank, how much of maybe the fatigue factor was it on Saturday, playing 3 games in 6 days, back-to-back road games? Was that at all a factor, you think?
Yeah, I don't believe so. We didn't play real well. They played really well. They're good. I think sometimes our local media thinks that I just say stuff to say stuff. When I sat here last week and told you guys that LSU is deemed the most athletic team in the league, I didn't just say that to fill like a column somewhere so I can have something intelligent to say. That's the opinion of all basketball people that cover the SEC. That's the opinion of all the NBA people that go watch them practice and come watch us practice, and then they communicate with me, not telling me secrets about the other team, just create an opinion about the teams that they see. Their point guard is special. See, that's where stats are so deceiving. We all get wrapped up in stats. Whoa, he did this. Oh, my God, you see that highlight play? Oh, my God, he scored 46. He had 12 and 6 and completely dominated the game. And he's special. And they're good. Emmett Williams is all man and probably played the best game he's played for him this year, and he's a real good player. The 2 big guys are both NBA guys. Big B. Williams, a 5th-year senior, is an NBA guy. The guy that played at Roselle Catholic, I always forget his name. Nazir Reed, yeah, he's an NBA guy. Tremont Waters is an NBA guy. That freshman point guard, Smart, is real good. They're good. The other young man, number 4, is a 3-year starter. They're good. They took care of their home court and kicked our tails. We didn't play real well. I was disappointed. I wasn't disappointed that we lost. I mean, any coach that says he's comfortable after a loss is full of you-know-what. I was disappointed that we didn't. It's the first time in a while that we don't fight defensively and we don't execute on offense. We just kind of just didn't play well. But give them credit. They were real good. And, I don't know if the arena was sold out, but it seemed that way. It was crazy in there. It was loud, a lot of emotion. Their players fed off of it and just kicked our tails.
You mentioned defensively. How much of that was guys maybe just not executing what they were supposed to do, and how much of that was, I guess, Tremont Waters and those NBA guys doing what they do best? Yeah,
well, when you play real good players, sometimes you do what you're supposed to do, and they still make the play. So when they do that, you pat them on the butt and say, "We'll try it again next time." But first 3 plays of the game, we knew they were going to run certain things to attack us, and that's exactly what they ran. And we weren't where we belonged. We just weren't there, and allowed our mistakes. I shouldn't even say mistakes, because those mistakes are kind of when you go to the wrong place. We weren't connected where we needed to be connected, and that's not a mistake. That's just lack of focus or something. I don't know. Mistake is a guy makes a pass and you rotate to the wrong man or something like that. That's a mistake. That's stuff you watch on film. The stuff we did wrong the first 3 plays of the game immediately put my mind red alert, because we were not sharp. And, maybe I managed the 2 days of practice after Vanderbilt the wrong way. I'm in the middle of the whole thing right now, so I'm not going to sit back and try and figure out if I didn't manage post-Vanderbilt to the LSU game properly. We got to get ready for Auburn on Tuesday, so I'm not into dwell on good and bad. After Auburn, we finally have a day off. It's been a while. So I'll kind of sit back and rewind this past week and see what I think I did right and wrong.
Frank, looking ahead to Auburn, it doesn't look like Austin Wiley will play. He's got more leg issues. How much does that change y'all's scout in trying and planning around him, and now you don't have to worry about it?
Well, he gives them a low post score. That's kind of, when they spread you out and they put all kinds of shooters and guys that play off the dribble around the perimeter. And they kind of spread you out, and then boom, they throw it into him, and he gives them, he's a load. I feel bad for that young man. He just, I don't know, can't get healthy. It sounds like he's not going to play. We're going to prepare as if he will play, but that's the biggest difference. When they play Macklemore, Spencer, I have roadblocks with some names sometimes. It's my whole life. Kiki, Chuma. Yeah, when they play those guys at the 4 and 5, they become more of an athletic kind of space, ball screen, rim run kind of team, offensive rebound. With Wiley, it's more of a low post, get in there, seal, spread you out, throw over the top. You play behind, throw it to him, because he's a big old dude. He turns and shoots over the top of you. But those other guys, they're one of the top shot blocking teams in the country, and Wiley was not a big part of that. That's more Macklemore, Spencer, Chuma, those guys. Those guys are really, really active.
Long week last week, early tip Tuesday this week, quick turnaround. Do you feel like your guys, based on what you've seen in practice, are fit and ready and for the game tomorrow night?
Yeah, we actually went real hard yesterday, and we went a little longer than we've been going, and that's the only thing that in my mind we slipped defensively. Let me get the order of these games right. From Mississippi State to Missouri, I didn't think we defended as well. From Missouri to Vanderbilt, I thought we defended worse. And then Vanderbilt to LSU, we were really bad defensively. So, and when I mean bad, it doesn't mean we didn't play hard. It just means we weren't connected with the stuff we put in the scouting report and our disciplines, who belongs where when the ball's in certain areas. We kind of just slipped there. And so yesterday, I told the players after the game, I said, we lost, they beat us, but we were no good. And I can deal with losing, but I can't deal with losing when we don't play the game the way we're supposed to play. They tried. It's not like our guys just laid down and jogged up and down. We're no good. I think they dunked like 12 balls. I mean, we were just awful. It was just awful. And it was all mistakes. It was all guys not being in the right place, not being sharp with rotations, with coverages. But so yesterday I said, we're going to fix this. We're going to, so we went pretty hard yesterday, and they were great. They good spirits. I walked in the office yesterday. Practice was at 2. I probably got in there about 11, and they were all sitting in the conference room watching the game film, on their own. They care. We got a fun group. We got a fun group of guys. I wasn't real happy with them on Saturday, but that doesn't mean that they're not a really good group of guys. I think we'll play a lot better tomorrow.
Andrew.
After facing Saban Lee and then obviously Waters, like you talked about, now you get Brown and Harper. I keep forgetting Harper's name. I keep wanting to say Heron. Those two, last year you held them in check here, and then they had a big game when you went down to play them there. What's the challenge with those two? It might be the most high-scoring duo, in the SEC. And considering where your defensive is, how much of a concern is that going into the game?
Well, think about the lineup of point guards that this league has, and the ones that we faced. It started with Nembhard, who McDonald All-American, if he fit the category, the criteria needed. for that to be. Follow that up with Lamar Peters, who's an NBA guy. Then we take on the young man from Missouri, who I told him after the game, he's as improved a player as I've coached against as I've been in the SEC. I mean, he is a gutsy kid and can is really playing well right now. Then you follow that up against Saban Lee, who's as athletic as any point guard in this league, and that was obvious with our inability to keep him out of the paint. And then you take on Tremont Waters, who might be as good a point guard as there is in the country, period. And now we got to take on two guys that have played together every game for 3 straight years. And not just played. If you remember them when they were freshmen and sophomore, they came in here and we beat them pretty bad. Then they came back in here last year and we were up, but they were a top 10 team. They had started to figure it out, obviously, and they didn't go away. And then when we went to their building, we were in control of the game, and then we started turning the ball over in the second half. And in their building, they're lights out. They just shoot it. They shoot it well everywhere, but in their building, they just like to a different level. We allowed them to get in the open court, and then they come at you, and then it makes it really hard because they know each other. Harper knows where Brown's at. Brown knows where Harper's at. If you watch them, they're passing to each other, to everybody. But, anytime Harper's coming at you, he knows where Brown's at. He don't even need to look. He just throws the ball, and it's there. And then our ball shooting, we got to keep them out of that open court by taking bad shots and by not taking bad shots and not turning it over. We've got to get to the foul line. That slows the game down for them on offense. Not slows it down for us on offense. It slows it down for them on offense. And then our ball screen coverage has to be good. Our ball screen coverage has to be good. We have to be extremely diligent and intelligent with when they put us in ball screens, which is coming, with how we cover that.
Frank, off topic here, but what do you think about the new net ranking over the sport?
I haven't paid attention. I couldn't tell you like what team is what or none of that stuff. Dave, I used to get consumed with all that as an assistant coach. I told you guys before, and I did that my first year as a head coach, and I was like, whoa, my God, I'm never doing this again. From the little that I've kind of Andy Astley in my office kind of, reads it and all that stuff, and it used to be Fig before him. And the one thing that I know that we're all a little concerned about is the efficiency numbers are a very, I want to say it's a very important criteria in creating that number. Well, if you're a school that plays, the teams we've played, your efficiency numbers aren't going to be as good as if you played some other people. Does that make sense? They tried to protect themselves from, like quality opponent by not if you won by 11, it counts as a 10-point win. But then the efficiency numbers are a little different. You look at our efficiency numbers against certain teams, they're a lot better than they were against Virginia and Michigan and Clemson. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that's a part of it that it's like anything else that's new. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be things that look good. It's like me at home. I'm watching film and I'm diagramming kind of floor spacing that I think would work. And then when we get on the court, we do it. I'm like, this stinks. I just wasted my time last night trying to, come up with something that doesn't work. Some things look good on paper. And then when it's live, it's not as good as you thought. So you got to tweak it a little bit. I think it'll be tweaked. That's an opinion of mine.
Frank, for a lack of a better way to phrase this, was there anything on Saturday that you learned about your team, or is there any aspects that you're trying to figure out still with their development and where they're at?
Yeah, I learned from them yesterday. Saturday was just, it's one of those days. I wasn't very positive during or after. There was nothing to be positive about. I'm not a big believer. I'm like, well, we've played good for a month, so keep your heads up, boys. No, the last month is irrelevant. when it came to Saturday. But how we responded yesterday, that tells me what I thought going into that game, is that we got a real good group of guys. They're trying to figure it out. They weren't good on Saturday. It is what it is. I probably wasn't good either on Saturday, managing the game or whatever. I'm not real good. I'm okay with telling people what I'm not good at. You know what I'm not good at? I'm not good at standing up, clapping, and pumping my fist when my team's not playing the way that we're supposed to play. I'm not real good with that. You know, some guys are. Some guys will stand there and keep clapping and cheering. I've never been a cheerleader. You know, some guys are good at it. I'm not. It's not my personality. It's not who I am. And if my team's playing the way we're supposed to play, like I don't know if you guys remember when Kentucky came in here with the guy that averages 28 points a game for Phoenix right now, Booker. You guys remember that game? We played our hearts out. Our hearts out. I was engaged in that, and we're down 12, 14, pretty much the whole second half. I was engaged possession to possession, buzzer to buzzer. Why? Because we did everything we're supposed to. Same thing with Texas A&M. They came in here with Daniel House, and he makes a broken play 3 to break our backs at the end of the game. You know, we shot 30% for the game, 29-something. We played as hard and as connected as we could. When that's how we're playing, I'm proud, man. I'm fighting. But when we're playing completely disconnected from our principles, from the stuff that we talk about doing, I'm not a real good cheerleader. I'm not. I'm you know. But I don't dwell on it either. I don't hold grudges. I'm not one of those guys.
Any update on Justin Minaya? 2 questions. Any update on Justin Minaya? And second question is not related to your team, but John Morant has sort of like taken college basketball by storm. And did you see that in him when you were scouting him and recruiting him out of Crestwood?
Yeah, Justin, I'll answer the first one, the Justin part. Justin is starting to do some running on the court. You know, Phil, I think you guys understand this about me by now. I'm not, with injuries, I'm not big on giving numbers and all that, because then, you know, a week from now, then you guys will say, well, you said this week. What's the deal? You're not being honest with me with the injury. I think that sometime early next week, he should practice. That's just my gut. That's not a doctor. That's not a trainer. That's just my gut watching where he's at right now. And, you know, and then he'll, like we said, he'll go through 3, 4 practices and see how he feels and how that knee responds. And then if everything's a thumbs up, then I've told you guys from day one, it's a decision he and his family have to make. I'm going to support whatever way they want to go on that, to play or not to play. And then Ja, yeah, I don't really comment on other players or people that sign with other schools or whatever, you know, but we recruited him, we offered him, you know. It's I'd give you the story on his recruitment, but I don't think it's fair to him. That's something that he would have to speak about. But yeah, we offered him a scholarship. I saw him play a gazillion times. And, you know, he was on that AAU team with Devontae Shuler and Zion Williamson. And no one really paid attention to him because he was kind of that forgotten guy that just made all kinds of plays, but everyone was so focused in on Devontae and Zion. And then I saw him at an event here in town that my son had been invited to, so I was privy to that I can be in there to watch my son, and they were on the same team. And I'm sitting there saying, holy cow, wow, I didn't know he can do all that. And I'm a big fan of his. I'm really, really happy for him because it's a wonderful family. He's a wonderful kid. You know, it's one of those, you know, in recruiting, you've heard me say this before, Phil, you meet some guys that the more you visit with them, the least you want to talk to them. And he was a complete opposite, him and his family. You know, once I engaged in that recruitment, wonderful people. And I would have loved to coach him. He would have been a star here, but wasn't meant to be. You know, he did what he felt was right for him, and it's worked out. That's the way life should be.
Frank, you mentioned ball screen defense a lot this season. I guess just how important is that to what you guys do, and what would you like to see it do better? What about it makes it, I guess, not where you want it right now? What would you like to see it improve on?
Well, it's like Andy Kennedy, who's doing the game for television. You know, he's in town. He came in yesterday and he watched practice, and we went to dinner together, and you know, and he made a comment that I kind of take for granted sometimes. You know, Dwayne Notice had gotten so good at guarding the other team's point guard that he wouldn't accept getting ball screen. I mean, you can go up there and hit him 26 times. He didn't care. He just was going to knock you over and stay between the ball and the rim, and you know, and we don't have that right now. Hassani's the closest thing we got to that. AJ does it at times, but he's a freshman, and he gets hit, and even, you know, he's just not built for that physicality yet. You know, Trey Campbell doesn't do that real well. He's got to, you know, he's been taught to defend ball screens his whole life completely different than we do, and he does it in practice, and when the game starts, he reverts to what he's always been taught, and that's, you know, that's something. I don't want to say we're fighting. That's not the right word, but we're trying to figure out a way to get him to trust in what we're doing in practice so he can do it in the game. But it all starts with the guy guarding the ball. Everything starts with the guy guarding the ball, and we've gotten better this year. But we're not as consistent as I want us to be there. And it all starts. Think about the guys I'm talking about: AJ, Keyshawn, Trey's first year here. You know, it's all guys that are going through it for the first time.
You out-rebounded for the first time in SEC play.
Yeah.
Large margin. How much blame do you put on Chris and Mike when the margin is that much, or is that a whole team kind of?
Yeah, it was across the board. We couldn't keep we could not keep their guards out of the paint. So they had us just like on rotation every play. And then when you're on rotation, you know, everyone's scrambling trying to get where the next pass is going to, and then the shot's taken. And now you got to figure out who you're supposed to box out that's not the guy you were matched up with when the possession started. And since we didn't have that fight that I'm talking about, not only did we not fight to keep the ball out of the paint, but then we didn't do a very good job of then laying bodies on some big, like Emmett Williams is 230 pounds. That is, and I said it after the game, he was my favorite high school player last year. You know, him and Zion were like the two guys I used to love to go watch because of the physicality that they both played with. And you know, and that's just, they just manhandled us. I mean, they put us on skates, and it's not fun to play. When you're on skates, you can't stop. And we just kind of sliding and just the whole game. And you know, think about trying to box out when you're on skates. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to hold your ground. And that's kind of the way we were all game defensively. We're just kind of sliding around. And so when you're sliding around, you got no strength. You can't play with strength. And they just punished us, man. I'm not going to say we had corrected it, but we worked really, really hard to get out of that not rebounding perspective, and that allowed us to start changing our team. That was the stat. If there's one stat that shows our team's personalities, that one. When you see us getting out rebounded like that, that's what happened back in November or an early part of December. We're not going to win.
A little bit off topic, but what have you seen from Jair Bolden, his growth, and where do you want to see him continue to improve? Is he a guy who can kind of take Hassani's minutes next year? How does he kind of fit?
Yeah, he's been he can really, really score. You know, I knew he could score, but you know, he used to take on film some bad shots. And his shooting percentage for a guy that takes a lot of jump shots is exactly what it is. You know, there was, like, not great. If you look at percentages in college, we've tried to get him to play more aggressively towards the rim, and he's growing at that. But he's got space now. He's a problem shooting the ball. I mean, that guy, a problem for the other team, not for us. I mean, he reminds me of Jacob Pullen, who played for me at K-State. He's got that kind of a mindset that kind of confidence in his ability to score if you give him space. He's got to get better defensively, you know, and I don't really fight them. That redshirt stuff's hard. So, you know, I asked them to play hard, but I don't really just jump on their shoulders like I do with the guys that have to play in games defensively, because it's hard. He don't need me beating on him when he's already, you know, going through a challenging year where he doesn't get to play. But I tell you what he does the best, his enthusiasm for being out there. I mean, he don't shut up. He talks. He's excited. He's competitive. I'm excited about him. I'm excited about him. He's got to get better defensively. He's not where he needs to be. He's heard every once in a while chirp at him. I said, you know, I understand why you haven't been able to win in college yet, because he just kind of stands around defensively. But here's a great thing about him. When I recruited him, you know what he and his dad told me? He hasn't played as well as he's capable of since he played for Bob Hurley. He needs somebody to coach him. So for everyone that says I'm bad for people, call his dad, see what he says. That's why he came to school here.
Last question.
Frank, Bruce Pearl's been complimentary of how you and South Carolina kind of handled the whole McLemore situation when it happened last year. Mm-hmm. In the moment, was that as kind of as gruesome as the thing you saw? And then for him to be back and not miss a game this year and be productive, what's that say about him? And, you know, it's kind of a neat little twist to tomorrow's game that he's back here.
Yeah, we're competitors and we're all trying to win. And I don't know that young man. I never recruited him. I didn't know much about him in high school, but I seen him on film, and he going into that game, and he was playing at a high level, fun to watch. You know, you watch film, competitive, no bad body language. I mean, all the stuff that when you watch some guys, you're like, okay, we can attack him because when things aren't going his way, he's going to pout. You never saw that from him. But regardless of what my opinion is on film and everything, you don't want to see somebody get hurt. I mean, that you know, I've suffered knee injury after knee injury after knee injury. It's young people getting hurt and as a parent, it's my biggest fear. All my kids play sports. Is, you know, knock on wood that they stay healthy. But if it happens, you know, it's not fun, man. So anytime a kid goes down, whether he plays for us or plays for the other team, my heart goes out to them, and that's not a moment to be wearing a South Carolina shirt. That's a moment to care for that young person, and that's how I am. That's how I'm built. Whether I like the other coach or not, which I'm not insinuating anything with Bruce, has nothing to. All that stuff goes out the window when a young person goes down with an injury. I'm really happy for him. He's starting to play well again. You know, early on in the year, you're watching film, and I don't want to say he's tentative, but, you know, it wasn't as good as he had been. 2 of his last 3 games, he's really, really played well again. And I'm really happy for him.